Michael York. The automobile as we know it today was not invented on a single day by any single inventor. But we can point to a couple of breakthrough moments in history when it comes to the production and selling of cars. In America, Henry Ford invented an improved assembly line and installed the first conveyor belt-based assembly line in his car factory in Ford's Highland Park, Michigan plant around 1913. That assembly line reduced production costs for cars by reducing assembly time. Ford's famous Model T was assembled in just 93 minutes. A few years later, the very first automobile auction would occur, with the very first auction taking place in South Carolina in 1938. For over 70 years, this industry within an industry has grown to become an integral part of the automotive marketplace today, the auto auction. Today, almost 10 million vehicles are sold each year through member auctions of the National Auto Auction Association. So we thought it might make for an interesting trip to take you, the viewer, inside the world of auto auctions, to see the role that these facilities play in the lives of consumers and dealers as well. I'll be joined by special guest Lynn Morgan, Vice President of a national auction chain, and by Frank Post, General Manager of a major market auction in the Dallas, Texas area.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Frank.
Good to see you.
Yeah, well, thanks for being with us here today. And here we are at the Wholesale Auto Auction. Now, we're going to talk about a lot of things today, but let's start with that one. What is a wholesale auto auction, Frank?
Well, a wholesale auto auction is where dealers, new and used, come together to trade inventory, buy their inventory, to put on their lots, or if they've had the car too long, to bring to the auction to sell at fair market price, to sell it, get the money, and then go try to buy something else to put on the lot.
Now, these are not just franchise dealers,
No,
independent dealers?
Mm-hmm. Buy here, pay here, a lot of late model, and then independent to highline type cars, to everything.
Now, there's a perception or whatever you want to call it out there that only problem vehicles are coming to auction.
Yeah, that's an old wives' tale. That's what people actually think and what have you. But believe it or not, this is where most of the dealers get all their inventory they come from. They can't trade for enough cars to take care of their inventory to sell on the lot. So they come here to buy their cars to fill up the lots for the empty spaces because they're not selling new cars or they can't find any anywhere else.
And Lynn, let me ask you now, where are those cars coming from? What's the source of these vehicles?
Well, Mike, that's a great question. The vehicles really come from a number of sources. They'll come from manufacturers, they'll come from dealers, they'll come from rental car companies that are trying to replenish some of their fleet, vehicles that are coming off lease, banks are a source. So the sources is pretty broad, but the exclusive buyers are the dealers that Frank spoke about.
Well, Frank, now you mentioned the word highline. What does that mean exactly?
Well, we have a sale once a month. They have the exotic highline type of units, and we get, say, 1,000 to 1,500 together to put up for them, and they're all types of cars, where from Jaguars to Rolls Royce to Porsche, you name it, we got them in there.
And behind us here would be one of those cars, is that right?
Yes, this is a typical one we have right now. This is a, get in, Lynn. This is an 08 model we're going to have for our sale next week, and we just put up here for display for the dealers because they're coming in all week to check the cars out. It's got like 5,000 miles, and this is a typical car that we're going to have for our exotic highline sale.
Boy, this is really clean, too.
Lynn, one of the things that people might not be aware of is sort of the rigorous process, the inspection, evaluation, the checklist, if you will, that auctions go through when a car arrives.
And that's a really important point, and it's an important piece of the whole process at the auction. So when a vehicle comes into an auction, there are condition report writers, inspectors that work at all of the auctions across the country, and they go through a rigorous inspection on every vehicle. It's over 100 different checkpoints that they will look at when they're inspecting a vehicle, so that the buyers of those vehicles know exactly what might be wrong. It's an opportunity for the auctions to actually do some work to make the condition of the vehicle even better. So it's an extremely rigorous process. There's a lot of consistency that's been adopted throughout the auction industry to make sure that the buyers know exactly what they're getting and that these cars are as nice as we can possibly get them.
So in essence, Lynn, as a driver, maybe I'm not exactly where I need to be on the 3,000-mile oil changes, or I got a belt that I know probably should have already been changed. When a car comes into the auction, all that's brought back up to speed.
That's right. We take care of all of that for you. So if we see that we need to have an oil change on a vehicle, or there's something that needs to happen to bring that vehicle up to a new standard, all of that happens at the auction.
And even the vehicle inspection reports, I mean, that's very important for the consumer to be aware of.
That's right. And vehicle history reports too. Those come along with most of the vehicles that are brought to the auction. So there's a lot of information that we already have about a vehicle, and there's a lot that we can do while the vehicle's here to make sure that we make it as nice as possible.
So, Frank, something that the average consumer would never have the opportunity to see, tell us what happens when a vehicle comes into the auction.
Well, be honest with you, let's just go and I'll show you exactly what happens to them.
Sounds great. Now, Frank, what's happening here? Walk us through this.
This is a typical car coming in here to be checked in. We're going to write the VIN number down on the vehicle, book it in to whoever it belongs to, and then put a run number on the windshield, and then a driver will be up here in a minute to park it in his parking spot, and he'll be ready for the sale. This is a typical dealer consignment that's bringing their vehicles in for sale.
And this goes on all the time, all day, every day.
Yes.
Vehicles checking in.
At night, 24 hours, 7 days a week. This happens.
Here we are in the body shop, Lynn, Frank. Now, when I think body shop, I'm thinking major repair, major damage, major improvement. That's not necessarily the case here, though.
No, it's not. Actually, the stuff that we do here at the body shop is very minor. It's usually bumpers or a partial of a fender or maybe a hood. But it's very, we average less than probably $500 a car.
And even before a car makes it, or if a car makes it into the body shop, Lynn, there's a checklist that goes on. There's actually a lot of work that happens before a car might make it to the body shop.
That's right, and that's something that we touched on earlier in the session. Every vehicle is inspected so that the seller first knows what they might want to do to repair or improve anything about the vehicle that they want the quality to come across when they're selling the car. At the same time, it's information about that vehicle that helps the buyer know everything about the car prior to any work potentially being done. And in some cases, the vehicle won't need to go through the body shop, right? The inspection will be so clean that it just gives the buyer that much more confidence in purchasing a quality vehicle.
And that's really what we're seeing right here, is a lot of these vehicles, I mean, these are new, nice vehicles. These are vehicles that are never going to see the body shop.
Well, and you've got a lot of different sellers bringing in a lot of different types of vehicles, right? So you're going to have some that have very low mileage, that have no damage to them, and all they need to do is get cleaned up. They might just need a wash and a vac, and they're ready to go. In some cases, there may be some things that need to take place, but the point is that all of that's identified up front, and the auction is able to accommodate all of those services from the front all the way until the day that vehicle is ultimately sold, and can provide very, very high quality work so that these vehicles are in the best condition they can possibly be in.
Now, Frank, as we see these vehicles move